locally, it's like you meet a lot of people like that are, superstars. And if they're nice, they stick with you. Everybody's going to have a bad day. Celine Dion.
You met Celine Dion.
And the way that I met her was incredible. At a dinner party. Shannon Cake's house.
Oh, wow.
No, it wasn't Shannon Cake's house. A good friend of ours. It was the DeTolos. Robert DeTolo's house. Dr. DeTolo. Ear, nose, and throat guy.
Yeah.
Shameless plug.
Yeah.
Julia DeTolo, his lovely wife. So anyway, long story short, we had no idea that she was coming there with her husband, Renee, and son, RC, I think that was his name, who's now probably 20-something years old. And so, we show up, and we had no idea. I'm fixing myself a martini over here at the bar and blah, blah, blah. And I hear like a little buzz coming from over there. And here comes Celine Dion. I mean, dressed, like Celine Dion, like, I am the greatest,
Yeah.
And we got a kick out of that, and she came over to where I was, and she watched us in the morning because she lived here before she moved out to Las Vegas. And B, she and her husband were trying to get pregnant, and eventually they had twins.
Yeah.
We had just recently, had our daughter, and so, we got to talking, about in vitro and that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, man, I'm sitting here talking to Celine Dion.
And what year was this?
This
roughly
15 years ago, let's say.
So she was on fire at that time.
Yeah, she still is.
I mean, but I'm
yeah.
really
She was
out there on fire.
Yeah, she was at the top.
Yeah.
And she's one of those people that will always be like Barbara Streisand or Liza Minnelli. That when you say the name, they don't share. They don't have to be recording anything. Madonna even.
Everybody knows.
If they go on tour, boom, sell out.
Yep.
It's like Celine Dion's just incredible. And then it was just incredible to meet somebody of that stature that was just that low key that night. She was just so
normal,
happy to be normal.
Yeah.
To be able to go out with, say, 8 people, somebody's house. There's like, 10 of us, let's say, having dinner, real good steak dinner, and nice. And we had made some chocolate-covered strawberries. And Renee, her husband, can I take some more? In his, Canadian French accent.
That had to be neat, right?
Sacre bleu, these are terrific.
Yeah, that had to be neat,
Yeah,
right?
it was great.
Yeah.
And my wife, take them all. We'll make more. Don't worry about it. In Cuba, Havana, Cuba.
Wow, how was that? Now, how long did you grow up there?
First 4 years of my life. Then we came over Thanksgiving Day, November 24th, I believe it was, of 1960.
Wow, and you came right here to Florida?
Came to Miami. Under the guise of we're going on vacation. Castro had taken over. My family kind of hung around for a year to see where that was going to go. And then they decided we need to do something. They're taking young boys and turning them into little military communist guys. So
that's what they were doing over there?
Right. So my mom says, time to go.
Time to get you out of there.
Yeah.
So then you come over here, you come to Miami.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then do you stay living in Miami?
Settled in there with, like a bunch of refugees. I mean, I've told this story a million times, but if you haven't heard similar stories, I mean, it's like that. Whether you're coming from another country through New York or whether it's, Cuban exiles or now, people, whether they're from Mexico or Honduras, Central America, wherever, you kind of come over however you can and you grasp onto whoever you know here. And we were very fortunate that our family had business associates in the U.S., and so they were able to kind of get set up. And then we came over little by little. This aunt, this uncle, this cousin had a cousin that was 6 years old, flew from Havana to Jamaica to Miami by himself. 6 years old. That's how desperate the situation was.
And that was the route to get in?
That was the route to get in on what they called Peter Pan flights.
Okay.
And then, me, I came with my mom. So here I was 4. And, Johnny, we're going on vacation. We're going to America. We're going to Miami. Oh, cool. So I don't know how it is anymore as far as looking for a job. I assume it's the same way, just maybe with a link. In the old days, you physically had to put it on a tape, take it to the, post office or the airport, and send it on Cargo Express to get there overnight.
Really? Wait, so what'd you have to do? So when you went to apply for a news job,
Yeah.
you'd have to record yourself.
Right. Well, you know,
Or
you
you'd have
put together stories that
Yeah.
you did last week, last year, whatever you're proud of.
Okay.
Unless the news director that you were applying to his or her station would say, just give me something from yesterday or the day before. And then some anchor samples if you were going for an anchor position. So, you know, you usually had a few in the can that you were proud of, that you didn't kick too many words,
Yeah.
not too many bloopers. You can send that. And that's the way it is. That's like your resume tape.
And then you would send that VHS tape.
Well, I would send it in 3/4 inch in those days before VHS.
I don't even know what that
Sports
is.
editor in high school, 11th and 12th grade.
So
Now,
how the hell did you end up in news?
well, you know, you start doing, 2 and 2 and it doesn't add up. I think, in those days I was, kind of thinking, well, either I'll be a DJ because that sounded like a cool thing. And at Miami-Dade College, I was doing radio and TV/TV news broadcasting sequence. So it was all fun. It's a lot of hands-on stuff. I love sports and I love music. So it was a combination of the two. I could go either way. I'll do that. But my love was sports. So I thought, I could write for the Miami Herald, and that'd be fun. Somewhere along the line when I was making $2.55 an hour part-time, running camera in St. Petersburg, 20 hours a week, driving from Tampa to St. Pete and back, 38 miles each way, for $2.55 an hour with a college degree. I decided,
And he's saying $2.55 an hour, by the way, for those who are watching.
$2.55, not $250.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was like no money, and seeing that there were 2 sports guys, and then the newsroom had 8 or 10 reporters and several anchors. I thought, there's more longevity there. There's more job opportunity. Let sports be your fun thing and let news be your work thing. And I think that's the way that I kind of thought about it. And keep in mind, we're talking 1970-something, 79. So in those days, you didn't even have the volume of news you have now. You had a half hour at 6, a half hour at 11. If you were lucky, you had some kind of morning newscast or a 15-minute newscast. And some stations had noon shows. But for the most part, noon shows consisted of a little news and then, some kid, local guy singing or something, it wasn't news as we know it today.
Morning.
Hardcore.
They got to have prompts up now, right? That are scrolling through that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
There's no way in hell they could.
That's the world.
Memorize
That's
all
the
that.
world today. Yeah. And it's been like that forever. The prompters have gotten better with computers, so it's instantaneous. It used to be in the old days a paper prompter taped together with Scotch tape as it went through, and words were scratched out.
Now, would they hang it, or
What
you'd have
the
it?
heck does that say?
Oh, they would hang it in front of you.
No, they ran in front of the camera. The same way
shit.
that they do now, except now it's a lot more legit.
Yeah, because they got monitors that are
Right.
slow at your pace to read.
Right. Before it's a combination of mirrors.
Holy
It's still mirrored, but mirrored with a piece of paper
Wow.
that sometimes didn't fit under that prompter machine, and it'd go scrunch, and you see it scrunching right in front of you. You're like, oh, what do I say now?
So,
Where am I here on my script?
so as the camera's on you and your script just got mangled by the dog, what do you do? Just
Teacher, the
wing
dog
it.
ate my homework.
Yeah, that's when you wing it.
Yeah,
right?
hopefully you've kept up.
Like read a little bit of it
Yeah,
prior to going on.
Well, and you have a script in front of you.
Okay.
So hopefully, you're not on page 2 and you lost your place in class. Hold on, teacher,
Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, it's happened. And so you just kind of do the best you can with it. Hopefully you know enough about the story to tap dance through it. To middle of the road. Give me the facts. Joe Friday from Dragnet.
Yeah.
Just the facts, ma'am. Now we throw in too many opinions in there. It doesn't sit well with people.
When did it come so divided? Because you have your Fox, and then you have your CNN, and then your MSNBC.
I think like most things, it happens little by little, and you don't even notice it.
You
And
don't
then
even-
one day you
they-
turn around and you go,
like,
what the hell happened?
boom. Yeah.
It's a choice. It's a choice. Sometimes it's like anything in life. You got to leave it alone.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be. You can't check your 401k every 10 minutes. It's going to be the same or roughly the same, or else you'll drive yourself crazy if the market's going south. So leave it alone. It's the same thing with news. If you follow it too intently, day to day, minute to minute, watch every newscast, oh my goodness, the world's coming to an end.
No, I know. So does Rob. But that, you know, people that we've hung out with or that I know. I mean, they literally sit there and watch it all day long.
All day long.
All day long.
Very loud.
Loud as can be.
I know.
And then after they're done watching it, then they text everybody.
Then they tell you all about it.
Tell you all about it. You got to watch this.
Ain't that America?
Yeah,
For you and me. That's the truth. And she says, hey, we've got an opening here. It's early morning. I said, how early? Well, we're expanding to 6 o'clock in the morning from 6:30. I'm like, 6 in the morning? Oh, Favs, we need you. You and I could team up again. Again, we used to work together in Chattanooga in 88 and 89. We could team up. We could own this market in the morning. I'm like, oh, my rocks. I'm not getting up at 4 in the morning. This is before I started getting up at 2, when 4 sounded bad. Yeah. And I longed for 4.
And you're worried about 6 right now.
Right. So, you know, I did it, and it was probably the worst interview of my life. You know, she talked to the news director, and the news director called me up. I'm like, yeah. Tomorrow's not good for me. No. How about the next? The next day's not good for me.
Were you just not into it?
I just really didn't want to do it. I did not want to lead somebody on and say, I'm going to wake up that early in the morning. No problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd never worked that early. Never. And at that time, however many years, 20 years, 15 years in the business, I'd never gotten up early. So I did it. I came over and, it's just a drive across Alligator Alley, and I stopped twice thinking, I'm going to turn around. I got here.
Did you actually stop and really debate it?
I stopped, looked around. What am I doing? I really don't want to go back to the East Coast. I don't want to wake up early. I did it. I got here about a half hour late for, the interview. News director was very kind, and showed me around, went out to lunch. Worst interview of my life. I mean, I barely touched my sandwich. We talked. He just kind of says, look, I know all this is, like new to you right now. Just let it set in for a couple of days and then we'll talk. And we talked. And I told him, thank you, but I'm not going to do it. I don't know what else I was going to do other than that plan B, and do car commercials elsewhere.
So you turned it down.
I did. And he threw more money at me, and then he threw more, and I kept on saying no. And he says, I'm not going to let you go. Not that it was a ton of money, but It kept on going up by $1,000. I'm like, well, where's this going to end? So, finally I said, look, stop with the money. It's not that. It's just, I don't want to see Roxanne in the morning. No, it's just, I did not want to wake up at 4, and I just couldn't tell him that.
Yeah.
So, another long story short, I did it. I said, okay. I called several people who had worked at the station, and now, we had worked together elsewhere and blah, blah, blah. And so I picked their brain, and they said, it's a great place. If you can suck it up and do the hours, I'm sure that you'll have an opportunity to do something else. Okay, yeah, I like that. Good game plan. And it happened that way. I took the job. So that was 94, October of 94. By 96, I got moved. I did morning and noon. I did the noon with Kelly Dunn for 12 years. And then I did noon and 5 p.m. So Kelly and I were noon and 5. I left Roxanne doing early morning. They put somebody else as her co-anchor. And I'm like, oh, my goodness, a year and a half, 2 years. And I got a raise, and I'm basically working 10 to 5:30.
That's not bad.
That's not bad.
I'll take that shift.
I did that for almost 3 years.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Which Roxanne called my hiatus, and she never let me live it down. Now, in those 3 years, Roxanne and I had such good chemistry, then the number started slipping. So a new general manager comes in, new news director, boom, they throw me back to, early morning.
Because you guys worked so good
together. Because we had chemistry. And, and again, that's one of those stories that you don't know it while it's happening until years later down the road. You say, why did people like us so well? Well, we had something. You catch lightning in a bottle, and it
good story works. Here, locally. Like a story that really sticks in your mind locally. I've been doing it 42 years. You got to have one that just really pops. Is that
crickets? He's got to go through that. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking locally. Listen, honestly.
I mean, 42 years. I guess it's kind of tough to narrow it down.
This is feel-good story every year right outside our TV station would be the Food for Families Drive. And then it became known as the Bill Brooks Food for Families Drive. That's the guy who hired me. He was our general manager for scripts and president of the station. A super nice guy. Anyway, he saw a need in the community that, in this town, he lives in Palm Beach, in this town of filthy wealth, whether it's Boca, Jupiter Island, anywhere. There's a lot of places here that are just a lot of money. There's also people that go to bed hungry with no food, no prospects of food, and they're undernourished, underfed, and they will be that way for life. So he took it upon himself with help from the TV station and started rounding up his friends, like the Rooneys, with the racetrack, and that was one of the big ones that was on there initially. And now for 30 some odd years, they've kept it going. So every November, right before Thanksgiving, the food drive starts. Like right after Halloween, they kick off the food drive. Goes for about 3 or 4 weeks, and it culminates with people coming around our little, circle there at the front of the TV station and just dumping off food. And it's gotten bigger
awesome.
And better. And it's incredible. Schools are involved, sheriff's office, people with money, people that can only do a couple of cans, stop by Publix, pick up a can, an extra can of buy one, get one.
Yeah.
And
that's really cool.
And that's done such great things for the community. So, that always sticks out in my mind. It wasn't anything I did. I was always involved with it. We would start broadcasting it early in the morning. People would start coming by at 5:30, 6 o'clock. And, and it's been cool. And as far as an individual story, there's so many. Where do you start? There's a lot of feel-good stories that are like that. But
that's just the one that sticks out. That's good because it's helping the community, and it's something nice because I'm sure you've seen a lot of nasty stuff.
Right,
in 42 years.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When my wife, if and when she sees this, she'll say, "What about blah blah blah?" And, and when your kid was born, and that was on the air.
I asked him. I asked him. It's his fault, not my story. In your opinion,
for me,
you did. Yeah.
The one I always hearken back to, it's the easy answer, is when I went back to Cuba. That was 1996, and I'd been working at the station a couple of years, and my news director said, hey, things seem to kind of be, clearing up a little bit in the trade, and, people are talking, that maybe there's going to be, some kind of a agreement with Castro. And
they sent you to Cuba to report?
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah. I went to Cuba, and I couldn't tell my mother. Diehard anti-Castro, period.
So she wouldn't have been too happy with you?
Wouldn't have been happy with that situation.
You tell her when you got back.
Right, I did. Now, remember, when I was 4 years old, it's because Castro himself is plucking little kids and sending them to Russia to teach them how to be communists, right? So, we left under that assumption. And so now, all these years later, I'm 40 and, going back to Cuba to see what's going on. Not so much to, go talk to Castro, but just to see what the flavor is there, what the feel is of the communist nation. And
what year is this? I'm sorry,
96.
Okay, so 96 you go back, they send you back, can't tell mom. Right.
But, I
understandably.
I asked her, do you remember our address in Cuba? Yeah, 123, Mockingbird Lane. Okay. So I went. And lo and behold, I run into our cook. We had some money in Cuba, and she was our cook. And her sister was my nanny when I was, a kid. So the next day, meet up with nanny. So, it was amazing that I'm sitting there looking at the house, talking to the people who live there now. And they're on the balcony and stuff. And I'm speaking to them in Spanish. And this woman comes around the corner. And she asked me a couple of things, and, I don't know her, but I remember the name, Dulce, which I don't know if it's her real name or a nickname, but Dulce means, like sweet.
Yeah, I like that name.
Yeah, she's a sweet lady. So anyway, we start talking, and she, oh, Johnny, and, she's hugging me, and I'm like, you remember me? And we start talking, and it was like it was just so different, just, it was like family,
Yeah.
And so she filled me in on, my life as a kid, and her sister, Elena, who was my nanny. We met up with her, and then her daughter, who was like, say, 5 years younger than me. And she was basically telling me, man, my whole young life, I had you to live up to. You were the comparison. You were the high watermark. Johnny this, Johnny that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, really? Yeah. How interesting. I never,
Did he have to go pop?
Yeah, right. Boom. I can't leave Cuba now with this big ego. Yeah, it's different because that's not the way your parents remember it. It's a whole different side of your life that your parents, they're too busy raising you, and the nannies, if they're around, they're raising you too. They see a different perspective of you. So, it was a cool trip just from that perspective, and seeing the house where I grew up, driving around. We had issues because we actually didn't get permission to go there. And so we had issues with the Cuban government. And so we had to clear that up with immigration. It's like you get off the plane initially, right? And 250 people get through. Me, you come over here, senor. And these people have guns, and it's scary because they're not messing around. And it's because my passport said that I was born in Cuba, and, I didn't have any proper visas to travel there. We basically hopped the plane, went to the Bahamas, from the Bahamas went to Cuba. I would not recommend anybody born in Cuba do that, because then you've got issues. Now, since then, I've gone back. I went back with family to visit in 2018, December of 2018. And it was like a whole different experience,
No problems at all.
It wasn't work related, no problems at all. You see what you need to see. And, people say, wow, what's Havana like? Well, Havana's like going to Florida and saying you went to Florida, but you went to Orlando. That's not Florida. It's Orlando. Havana is Havana. The rest of that country is tattered and torn. Not that Florida is, but, Florida's got rural. Florida's got, issues here and there.
Yeah, Florida's got one street with a $40 million house,
right,
and three streets
then
down.
There's that, right? Right.
People are killing each other.
Right.
Right.
So you can't just say, "Oh, I went to Havana. Cuba's great." There's a lot of stuff in Cuba that's
a lot more to Cuba than Havana.
Yeah, yeah. We get too much credit as news people for doing that, for leading people there, because there's so many newscasts, but I don't know if that's reality, because the news is there for you to pick and choose. It's not for you to just sit there and just watch it and get bombarded by it. That's a choice that you make as a human being. God gave you a brain, eyeballs, and the ability to walk away, and say CNN or Fox or whatever your network of choice is, you're watching this, and I don't think it's meant to be watch hour after hour after hour. You can get basically your news in an hour, a half hour in many cases, and then come back maybe in the evening and get an update. You don't have to sit there and just watch it all day. I'm not telling people how to live their life. I mean, I'm glad that the news is available for people to watch, but
Right.
the reality is people watch a lot of news, and they get maybe overinformed to the point that they think they're total experts in it, and they want to fight you on it all the time. And they want your opinion on it. I'm like, I don't want to give my opinion. I'm good.
Yeah.
Go full circle, and you had goals and you kind of achieved them. People sometimes have asked, did you ever want to be like a network guy? I guess somewhere in the back of my mind, I did. And then you start realizing, like I did with sports, ooh, that's a tough nut to crack. And you have to, I hate to say sell your soul, but it's like you're living out of a suitcase.
Yeah.
You're watching these guys, and they're somewhere every day, wherever
Somewhere
the big
different
news,
every day.
every day,
Yeah.
wherever the big news is, they're there. And is it enough money to warrant that? I've got friends, and, some of them are fed up with that. Some of them say, I wish I could trade places with you, which bed you're sleeping in every night. Not that the money was great, but the money was good enough to, keep me happy and keep me employed, and,
I mean, was there a
keep me going
certain
for it.
deciding factor that made you quit, or you just said, look, It's time.
When Rob left, I thought the whole world is going to hell. If Rob can leave, I'm leaving. So, no, it's nothing in particular. Just little by little,
The time
things start changing.
Yeah.
You know, you start seeing the changing of the guard. I could have stayed there. I could have, I could have stayed there another couple of years. You get to the point that, well, how long am I going to live? You know, you see friends of yours dropping dead, you know. I don't want to sound like an old fart, but, you know, it's like,
It's true.
it happened.